Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on board Press R today. Section 241 sub 1 new of the Penal Code states that whoever by any means makes hate speech against people or incites them to violence due to their tribal or ethnic origin shall be punished with imprisonment from 1 to 3 years and with a fine of 300,000 to 3 million CFA francs. Where the author of the hate speech is a public servant, as per the provisions of Section 1361 of the Penal Code, a leader of a political party, of the media, of a non-governmental organization, or of a religious institution, the punishment shall be doubled. We have either neglected or refused to apply these sections of the Criminal Procedure Code since July 27, 2005, and hate speech has stepped in and is comfortably sitting and staring us in the face with scorn. Hate speech is a bigger threat to national unity than the security conflicts and the socio-political crisis Cameroon has known this far. We cannot continue to romance. We cannot continue to cajole initiators, generators, and promoters of hate speech that is putting group and pitting them against each other, pitting tribe against tribe, and disintegrating our national unity, already exposed to many challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, with this in mind, we thought we should continue to talk about hate speech and see what exactly is happening. And our topic today, we are asking, are we cajoling hate speech promoters in Cameroon? If that be the case, what about the law that is there to bring them to order? And to talk about this topic today on Press R, I have the able panel, just the type of panel that you would like to have. And ladies first, Madam Nadesh Law Nganle, who is an official of Defy Hate Speech Now organization. That is, they are actually out to fight hate speech. We are pleased to have you on Press R set today, madam.
Thanks very much, Kilian. It's always with great pleasure that I join such discussions.
Now you're going to tell us why fight hate speech, not only fight, but fight now. We're going to come to that. Next to you is Honorable Nestus Frumanju, who is a member of Parliament, and we know that the legislators, those who make the law and control government, have a lot to do to make sure that all these type of hate, discrimination, and other vices in society are controlled, whether they come from the people or they come from the government or even the judiciary. Honorable Nestus, it's a pleasure to have you on Press R set today.
The pleasure is shared, Kilian.
Thank you. You are welcome. Professor Willibrod Zengwa is a political scientist. He is a historian, seasoned historian, I should say, expert in peace and conflict resolution, and he is the president of the Heritage Higher Institute of Peace and Development Studies. Prof, welcome to Press R.
Thank you, Kilian. It's always a pleasure to share with you and share with Cameroonians, those who are watching us. It's going to be a pleasure to share with this able lady and honorable gentleman. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we are waiting for our fourth guest, who is another Professor Pascal Kum Awa, who is an anthropologist. He's also an official in the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education that is carrying out widespread nationwide campaign against hate speech. We hope he's going to meet us as we roll on with this program. But before we come to the discussion table, the newspapers actually had so much to say the last week, and Emmanuel Abemni, who is just back from deserved leave, took up again the newspapers and read them for Press R. Manuela?
The Newsweek ending appeared busy with diverse news stories carried by different publications, Paul Biya and wife Chantal Biya in Paris in Cameroon Tribune. To The Voice, it is a robust Biya that takes off for Paris. The insider informs that the presidential couple is to take part in the summit for the new Global Financing Pact and have gone along with 6 ministers in the post-weekend. To municipal updates, Biya to herald Africa's position and vision at the new Financing Pact Summit in Paris. At the time, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paula Tanganji, orders ban of planned homosexual rights confab in the Guardian Post. Then the French homosexual ambassador chickens out after all-out bashing in The Voice weekend. This in the wake of carnage in Big Babanki as soldiers killed 12 civilians fleeing attacks in the horizon. The Guardian Post reports that soldiers are being accused of extrajudicial killings in Big Babanki, but The Voice is certain soldiers unleashed terror on population in military offensive in Big Babanki. The Post weighs in to precise that the front's requested help has ushered in turmoil as soldiers keep dropping dead bodies. Then, Big Babanki Kingmaker distanced itself from Fon's invitation to the military that killed scores of villagers in the horizon. Just when Bui SDO accuses Mbiame Fon of aiding and protecting Amber fighters in the Guardian Post, and immediately the Fon and notables are summoned within 24 hours in the same paper. The ESU Development Association then warns Menchum SDO, stop dabbling into our tradition or face spiritual powers in the Guardian Post. Then the presidency is petitioned over Menchum SDO's disregard and disrespect for tradition in the Post newspaper. Xenophobic attacks on Baba Dampulo in South Africa. Battleground shifts to Cameroon, headlines the Herald Tribune. Then Baba Dampulo justifies freezing of MTN accounts in the Guardian Post. And in no time, South African government weighs in on the legal battle between MTN Cameroon and Baba Dampulo in the horizon. Then a veteran journalist, Gideon Taka, bows out. The Guardian Post chronicles fallen SDF bigwigs. Until I come your way again, this is your hour with the press.
Thank you very much, Manuela. We look forward to having you next week, or we can either have you or Yoti. There's just no difference between the two of you when it comes to doing the press review for Press Hour. Thank you once again. I was introducing Professor Pascal Kum Awa, who is an anthropologist. He also is the technical advisor to the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education. Prof, we didn't have time to let our viewers see you. Let us have that time now to welcome you officially to the set. Prof, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Kilian.
Okay, you're going to probably tell us why we have hate speech as an anthropologist in Cameroon when so much is being done or said. You tell us from an anthropological point of view. You also tell us what the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education is doing, because that is sometimes where we fail to have civic behavior, and it extends to hate speech, to discrimination, and it is too dangerous for us. Now we're going to start with law, Nadesh law. You're going to tell us this hate speech. How does it manifest itself?
Yeah, hate speech is it's true. There is no universal definition of hate speech, given that we have different people living in different parts of the world with different cultures and backgrounds. But the UN has coined hate speech as any form of communication, be it written, verbal, or in the form of gesture, that attacks a person or a group of persons based on their identity traits like their culture, their religion, or background. And when we look at Cameroon, for example, we discover that Cameroon has a multiplicity of ethnic groups, over 200, and these different people are defined by different values. It's rather unfortunate to see that what is sacred to one group is usually considered as being unimportant by another group. So people usually feel so easy, they take some ease in insulting other people based on what they believe in. They attack communities, attack individuals as a result of things that, instead of identify them, is used to dehumanize. So hate speech comes in when you use any form of expression to dehumanize someone. You hear somebody who is a human being is being insulted and attributed values or given attributes of an animal, which by the universal rights of human rights is not something that should be allowed.
Yes.
So when you look at Cameroon, you discover that there are lots of ethnic groups, but instead of growing together in a diversity, instead of me bringing what I have and you bringing what you have to make us develop and evolve, some people sort of think themselves superior to others. What I believe in is more important than what Kilian believes in. And so I find pleasure in insulting you, insulting your background, insulting your tradition, and even up to your ancestors, which is something we are not supposed to allow.
Exactly, not supposed to be allowed. And as we started this program saying, Cameroon has laws that have been amended and supplemented, actually making sure that this is discouraged. This is not only discouraged, but this is stopped. And that is why we are here. We're going to suggest ways by which we can stop that. But before I go to another speaker, I want you to tell us what are some of these expressions you were talking about when we contextualize it in Cameroon. Can you remind us about some of these things that sometimes, like you said, people either jokingly or intentionally hurt others by using those expressions?
Kilian, I really would do it in a different way. And because what we've discovered in the course of our work is that the more we talk about these things, the more we use these examples, we are instead amplifying them. So as much as possible, when we go out to meet people to talk with them, and like now we are live on CRTV, we are being watched both from home and abroad, we try as much as possible to avoid using them. Okay. But what I really want to tell every person watching us now is to know that you as a person, you want to be loved. As a person, you want to be respected. As a person, you want to be given value. If you are not ready to put in the same thing, you will not receive it. If you're not ready to invest the same value, looking at every other person as a human, whether it's a president, whether it's a minister, whether they are from whichever culture, you should not consider this thing. Just say, I am a person, I am a human, I deserve to be loved, and whosoever faces me, if I'm a teacher, I'm in a classroom, I should treat all the children the best and same way.
You're just talking about the golden rule there.
If I'm in an office as a civil servant, everybody who comes, I should receive them. Not that I will reject somebody's file because I see the name that is written on it. It's true you may have had some difficult situation, you may have had troubles, and as humans we will always have trouble. But if we keep amplifying these negative points, that is where hate speech comes in. And the bad thing about hate speech is the direct result of hate speech is usually violence.
Yes.
And the moment violence steps in, we just might not be able to control it. You usually have small sparks that begin and everybody looks at it and we are laughing and it looks beautiful. But the moment the sparks turn into a flame, I bet you it becomes difficult to be able to quench.
Professor Zengba, have we got to the level of violence, that is, has the spark got to the level of flames in Cameroon?
Well, I think that is why I wrote an article, my most recent article, From Hate Speech to Hate Action. I think we have moved from just the basic hate speech to concrete hate action on the field. Let me say that, unlike my sister, it is incumbent on us to put a finger on some of those expressions and direct those who are responsible for making these public overtures so that we can be able to come out with concrete solutions. It has gone through a historical period of the analysis of hate speech. Of course, we all know that some people were referred to as enemies in the house. When a group of Cameroonians call other Cameroonians as enemies of the house, in the house, it calls for. These are just expressions. If some people, especially I would say in my community, you will realize that in my community where I come from, there has been violent conflicts between the Muslim community and the indigenous population. It started off from basic exchanges of hate speech, referring to the others who are not non-Muslims as paganic, dirty entities. to hate action where they have to actually slaughter people and burn down palaces. So it moves from one position to another. We can move on to other, like I say, we have concrete hate action.
Already in Cameroon.
If you realize Cameroon is in a tense atmosphere at this moment. We have persistent conflicts between the bike riders, even and the policemen on the streets. It emanates from petty hate speech and then to hate action. So everybody is ready at any given moment, to spring on the other. It is because of accumulated hate speech that has gone without punishment. And permit me say that coming from an ethnic group or from an entity is not a problem. It becomes a problem when you consider your ethnic group, your religion, or your community to be superior to the other. That is when the problem comes in. And of course, we have seen that. Permit me say that the common man on the street, common Cameroonians, my joke, Anglophone, Francophone, Bamileke, and so on. I mean, the common man, with no intention of hate speech. It's a way of describing. The research in the field shows very clearly that hate speech has been promoted by the powers that be, by those who have authority. Politicians.
No, politicians is different from the power because there is no official way, no official policy.
I said those who have power.
Okay.
Politicians, businessmen, ministers of government, religious personalities, top religious personalities, view the way they regard the other and the public statements they make. If we had to do a small study only within CRTV and replay the CDs or the cassettes of what public authorities have been able to say in this country and have gone unpunished, then of course, if a minister comes out with a glaring public statement and portrays hatred for the other, what about his followers? His followers will follow suit. After all, the minister or the politician did and nothing was done. The most unfortunate thing.
And that's where the law we're talking about, you continue to talk, says where the author of the hate speech is a public servant as per the provisions of section 1361 of the Penal Code, a leader of a political party, of the media, of a non-governmental organization or religious institution, the punishment shall be doubled.
That is right, especially if our laws were being respected. The very interesting thing about my country is that we have very beautiful principles, very beautiful laws, but there is a strict dichotomy between those laws and practical implementation.
Yes, we are going to, that is exactly why we are here. We're going to get into punishment. Yes, Honorable, I will come to you. You represent the people, but let me get an anthropologist who is also a technical advisor in the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education, Professor Kum Awa Pascal. From the point of view of anthropology, tell us why hate speech not only continues to be, but it is escalating, it is increasing in our society in Cameroon today.
Thank you for that question. Hate speech, every culture, every human race produces hate speech, no matter where they are. And hate speech is contextualized. As the former panelists have said, there's something you joke about within your culture, which is very normal. It's accepted. But the other culture may not necessarily accept what you are saying. If I were joking with him in our mother tongue, and he would take it normally. But if I joke with another person in another culture, he would take it as though I hate him. It becomes ethnocentric. That is, my culture is better than yours. And you see, hate speech starts like a little seed and grows and grows, and we continue to alimент it, to feed it. Take, for example, in 1990, where an authority declares that there are enemies in the house. That was taken like a joke, no punishment, nothing. We laughed over it. But then we fed it and even enshrined into our own constitution by thinking that we were protecting minorities, bringing in words of autochtone and allogene, that is native and non-native. This is where the whole thing starts, where you begin to look at the other person not being a native person like you, and you start using a language to exclude him. And hate speech really comes in, when we cannot live inclusive lives, when we want to be exclusive. So as I'm saying, hate speech, the way I'm seeing it go, is dynamic. I've just taken from 1990, and when you move up, we are talking about 33 years. The different forms of hate speech that it has taken, physical, psychological, verbal.
So it is increasing by leaps and bounds.
If we are not careful, we will reach a point where, irrespective of the law, there will be open violence in the streets because of hate speech.
Exactly, that's why I brought you here. You're going to suggest to us how to, first of all, respect the law that is there, and then other means by which we can stop hate speech. We are not there yet. We have to meet honorable. When you represent the people, you have to speak last, so that you get all the various opinions and then come in from the point of view of the representative of the people. Honorable, hate speech, what is it that we cannot control this?
Thank you very much, Kilian. I would want to say that hate speech is not a matter of it doesn't exist, or it's not a novelty to our community. These are little expressions that in the days foregone, in the past, were taken for granted and were taken as jokes. And with the passage of time, it contextualized itself and became a form of expressing people's emotions and people's frustrations and people's worries and cares and challenges. Because, no matter how much you try to bury your emotions in one way or another, they will definitely find a vent. If you find that hate speech nowadays is becoming of great concern and is becoming more manifest, it's because of emotions that people for a long time have kept, and now they find it being expressed in the form of language. I would simply say that the legislator had foreseen this and looked for ways of preempting this. That is why the Penal Code, in its Article 241 and 361, had definitely couched that these are forms of offenses that dehumanize us, and so had sought to some sort of give punishment. But Mr. Kilian, I would tell Mr. Ndah, I would tell you simply, where there is an offense, a presumed offense committed, and there is no complainant, then the justice system will not be activated. Inasmuch as the legislator has previewed that these actions are punishable by the law, we need somebody who must have suffered this prejudice to bring to the State Council or to the legal department the fact that I have suffered a prejudice because of what X or Y did, and then the justice system will be activated. We may say that the law is there. The people are not aware that the law is there. That is why it's incumbent upon us now, because ignorance of the law is no excuse. It's incumbent upon us now to make the population know that everybody who suffers any form of hate speech can bring action against the perpetrator for reparation.
Exactly.
And that's where the judiciary comes in now.
Now,
Now,
there's law. Yours is defy hate now. How are you defying hate when we hear the legislator or the procurator who is supposed to prosecute whoever does this cannot go to the field? What are you doing that these cases that we know, so many of them are not getting to those who can prosecute, who can punish the hate speech promoters?
Yeah, Kilian, I was listening keenly to the Honorable, because, as a legislator, he will speak from that perspective. But one thing we should notice is that when the law comes in, the law is repressive. The law comes to punish. The law is a reaction to an action. But the best way for us to address issues like hate speech is to be proactive, to avoid having it in the first place.
We already have it. Let us not go to avoid having it. We already have it.
When I'm talking about being proactive, it means that there should be more of a collective effort. Every person should feel concerned. That's why what we do at Defy Hate Now, and we always emphasize on the now, is that each and every one of us has a role to play. At the level of communities, see how to transform bystanders to community peace weavers. Bystanders are people who may not be direct victims, but see somebody suffering such a prejudice. And you being a quarterhead, being able to summon 2 or 3 people because you knew they had this problem and find a solution there and then, it may help. As traditional rulers, you usually have meetings with your notables or traditional council and always re-emphasize the need for people in your communities to be accepted as one, irrespective of whether they are autochtone or halogen, and create the conducive environment for people to feel comfortable.
Yes, where I am not very comfortable is from July 27, 2005, we had this in the Penal Code, which was amended, revised in 2016. And then again in 2019, December 24, 2019. I think it came in with the National Commission for Bilingualism, for promotion of bilingualism and multiculturalism.
Yeah.
That's where we have the December 24, 2019. We have had all these ones. We mean that all the preemptive actions, the legal instruments have been put to place. Should we be talking about sensitization again today?
Definitely, yes.
Then when are we going to end? We are going to end with sensitization?
We're not going to end with sensitization. We have to create awareness. Each and everyone has to know that it is repressible to have people denigrate other human beings by their language. We have to, and you keep learning till you die, and each piece must fall in place, because our cultural backgrounds are different. We are a united country with so many diversity. What in one culture is permissible may not be permissible in another culture. The form of expression in one culture may not be permissible in another culture. That is why we have what can be acceptable to X may not be acceptable to Y. So we should keep sensitizing ourselves that, look, at this point in time, what is acceptable here may cause prejudice in Y's own locality or abort. That is why we need to sensitize till everybody becomes aware.
Where is the place of this law that we have here?
The place of the law is when it occurs.
Well, if you, the people sensitizing, do not take it to the law, like you said, no complainant, no activation of the law. You should be, the people sensitizing should pick some of these examples to the law.
You and I are all accountable. You and I are all responsible for the implementation of this law. So it's not only the legislator. Anybody who finds any form of hate speech can denounce it. And once we denounce it, even if it's the legal department that or a judicial official who notices and comes to the knowledge, it's brought to his knowledge, has the right to denounce it. And once you denounce it, the justice system is activated. And once the justice system is activated, there is a legal procedure that brings in the culprit, the presumed culprit, and the justice system will either condemn or acquit the person.
Yes, Prof. Zengwa, we have the impression that this sensitization campaign and the rest is a way of romancing, of cajoling the promoters and initiators.
I share your impressions, especially when they are coming from legislators, people who have been elected. And I want to say that I said earlier that most of the time, these politicians who have been elected are the ones who propagate hate speech most during the period of their election. For selfish interest. And that is why they know fully well that if we have to engage into punitive actions, many of the legislators will be caught pants down. I think that's why they want to, permit me use the word pretend, to say let's begin sensitization. Permit me note that there is a tense atmosphere going on in the East region, in a community of Gaji, between the Fulani and the indigenous people of that area. We do not need somebody to complain in the degree of hate speech before the administration, before the legislation come in to solve it. When Visioncat Television came out very clearly to map out Anglophone communities in Yaoundé, it was to the hearing of all the legislators, the members of the judicial force, and of course the leadership of the country.
Let us just note there that the National Communication Council has punished some of them, and is that type of punishment that we want other institutions that are competent in their areas to do same, because we have a good number of
punishments might be suspension of whatever and so on.
Yeah.
We want punishment that should defer those actors from carrying on what they are doing on a daily basis. We have another young person who came out to describe the Anglophone ladies in Yaoundé to be dirty and all of that. All of us got that.
That is madness. I even call that more of madness.
The point is that the legislation know about that. We needed a woman.
The person was arrested.
Let me say something.
That person was arrested, yes.
Kilian, let me say something.
Was arrested.
We should be
arrested and released.
No, arrested and punished first.
Excuse me, Prof. What the honourable is saying is that define our roles. As a professor, your role as a professor, we won't come to that. But as a legislator, what is our role? We enact laws. As a legislator, what is our role? We control government action. As a legislator, what is our role? We represent you and every other Cameroonian in the National Assembly and in Parliament. Why? Why do we represent you? So that we carry the worries and the concerns of the people, and we use them to ask the executive arm of government what is being done about this. And if you follow up what Parliament is doing, you realize that a lot of your concerns have been addressed by the executive.
That's a politician speaking.
No. I'm a pragmatic politician. When we take those concerns, we bring them to the executive bench and they are addressed. And that is why we are saying there is a law that has condemned hate speech here. We have done our part. You as the community, what are you doing? Are you denouncing hate speech?
That is just a question I'll be asking. I'm going to ask Nadesh Law, who is working from the private sector with an organization called Defy Hate Now. Tell us what you have been doing on the field.
Yeah, what we've been doing at the level of Defy Now is laying emphasis on not only sensitization but education. One aspect about hate speech nowadays is the channel through which it is easily propagated, and that is social media. So I'm glad Honorable is here, and I'm happy to also see that as the laws are being made, they should also take into consideration the evolution around the communities. We are all unanimous here that hate speech has ever existed. Almost every culture has a way of addressing or identifying other people, but in the past it was not a problem. Now with social media, what could happen between 2 or 3 people and end there today you find 10,000 and millions of people reading it,
yes.
and that is where the reactions are coming. Because what you usually see on social media is not even the hate speech, but go to the comment section and read what people say and see the fighting that goes there. So we try to lay emphasis on digital and media literacy, because we know almost everybody has a smartphone and they are free to share and say whatever they want to say. I bet you what someone cannot tell you in your face, they would go on social media and say these things, and you're not able to be behind every person.
Yes, 35% of that of Cameroonians, they have smartphones.
Yes, and the internet penetration is also very high. We also try to work as much as possible with media professionals and media associations, because we have realized that even the journalists at times, either by ignorance or intentionally, share this. And we've seen cases of hate speech on the media, mainstream media in particular, and we believe that when they have the necessary skills, not only would they be able to stop it at their level, but they will also be able to stop from propagating it for it to get to other people. And we believe that capacity building is the best tool. Laws are good, but before we get to the law, let the person know it is wrong from the start.
We have stayed for so long with the laws. We think that between capacity buildings and the laws should have an upper hand, because we have so many recalcitrant people in this domain of hate speech. Yes, Prof, you also are involved in averting hate speech in society. What are you and your organizations doing?
Well, firstly, I think we just came back from the field. We carried on an intensive research in all the 10 regions, all the 58 divisions in this country, to evaluate the degree of conflicts, hate speech, human rights abuses in this country. The results will be published very soon. We, as a school, as an institution, we decided just lately, the Heritage Higher Institute for Peace and Development Studies. We do research as professor and as an institution, and make our research results available to legislators, to the leadership, so that they could take action. And when we realize that the government or governance is slow, we revert to what Honorable said. What are you doing as an individual? I think we do insist that everybody should be a vector of peace against this hate speech. And what we, as an institution, what we decided to do was that we have engaged schools, school communities, and get them to compete. Our last outing was getting 10 schools, students from 10 schools, and getting them to compete on an essay competition. What peace do we need for Cameroon? Self-sponsored, where the students were given prizes, where the students were awarded prizes up to laptops. I mean, from a personal perspective. So, we do the research. We want legislators to go through and see what we have done in the field in all the regions of the country. We are trying to go around preaching against that, but we cannot do it alone without support from
the government. Now, just to say that instead of saying government is low, because government cannot fail and explain it, the government should be methodic, gradual, and systematic, because they don't go like you went maybe for 2-3 weeks. Government cannot take 2-3 weeks, because their results
Let me say from June to June. We started the research from June, and we ended this June.
Well, no problem.
Year.
But
1 year.
Instead of saying slow, I think it should be gradual, methodic. That's, you know, your institution can come and go, but government will remain.
Always remain.
Yes, so
and that is why the institution does research work to leave, so that they can be able to go through and say, we have this degree of conflicts, hate speech in this direction, in this direction. When we say 58 divisions, I think that is the first of its kind in this country.
Thank you very much for the good
that
job
your
that
institution might have done.
Yeah.
You have
might have done.
Yes,
that
you have other studies that have been done before you came in.
Okay, now we're going to bring you on board this question of what you've been doing. Professor Pascal Koum Awa, who is a technical advisor to the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education. I also know, I've heard, I've read, I have seen that the ministry also is doing so much in the direction of fighting hate speech, sensitization campaigns, and the rest. What are you doing?
Thank you very much. The Ministry of Youth Affairs and Civic Education has identified hate speech as one of those behaviors of incivility and immorality in the country, and wants to tackle it. That's anticipate action, so that what is staring at us on the face should not happen. The reason being that hate speech is free speech.
But negative free speech.
Hate speech becomes a problem. I mean, speech
Becomes a problem.
is free speech. It becomes a problem
When it hits.
when you harm somebody,
You hurt.
harm a community and harm a whole country or a whole people. And what we are doing is to raise, that is, to rearm people civilly, morally, and entrepreneurially. That is through entrepreneurship. A camp is what you commonly hear called Proneriamos, National
Rearmament.
National Civic Education Program, through civic, moral, and entrepreneurial rearmament. Because hate speech is what is going to chop us off
If we don't stop it.
if we don't do
That would be
anything.
the next
Because
question
we
I will
don't have
ask you.
to wait for the law to be applied. We want to avoid a situation where the law should be applied. We want to avoid repression or violence. So the Minister of Youth Affairs has engaged, recruited 1,000 e-volunteers who are going to help in tackling, identify and tackling hate speech and fake news that they identify online. And we know that if we are able to do it online, it will have a spillover effect on the communities for those who don't have online connection. So we started it, and we are pulling together partners, development partners, civil society, other governmental bodies like ministries, Ministry of Communication, CRTV itself.
That's why you are here.
That's
Do
why
you
I'm
have, do
here.
you have any time frame within which you will end? If not, you're going to call for the law to come in?
We want to avoid the law coming in.
There's just no way we will avoid this law, the way it is going.
It will happen, but we want to contain. And between now and December, 6 months, we expect to reach out to 1 million Cameroonians.
Okay.
Because my ministry is in charge of not only youth, but civic education. And civic education means educating, rearming civically and morally every Cameroonian, so that they should behave in a way that they are inclusive. You accept the other person. You respect the basic human values of not harming.
Who are these Cameroonians? Is it the man in the street, to talk about the common person? Because you have some well-placed people who promote, who generate hate speech, and it will not be easy for you to just bring them on board because they are doing that from a position of
if
force.
they send anything hate speech on the social media, these e-volunteers will use it, will pick it up, identify them, and as the legislature was saying, will review them. You cannot escape. There is all technology that will identify who is propagating, producing and propagating hate speech. Even when you hide, when you use a pseudonym, if Cameroon cannot identify it, we go to external.
So you can be sure that Antique, the agency that is controlling telecommunications in Cameroon, is capable. They can uncover you in a matter of seconds.
Antique is part of the project that we have
Okay.
on volunteering.
Now let us, that's what you are doing at his ministry, just sensitizing. We certainly have some focused organizations and institutions. We talked early about the National Communication Council that is already punishing the media men and women who are deviating, who are having some deviant behavior in the media, be that social media or mainstream media. They are doing that. Apart from that, which other institutions do we have to call up to task to pick up their courage and summon hate speech generators and promoters to task? We should not continue to cajole them.
Mr. Kilian, Mr. Ndah, we have the National Communication Council that is already doing a great job. We have the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism that is doing enormously well in the fight and sensitization against hate speech. We have every other Cameroonian as an institution and as an individual. We are called to protect the dignity of another person, because your freedom ends where that of another person begins.
And we have Parliament, the National Assembly, and the Senate, where you belong, Honorable. I expect your institutions to call some of these smaller institutions to come up to them and tell them, what are you doing that we still have hate speech increasing in the country?
If you listen to the opening speech of the Speaker of the National Assembly during this June session, he decried, he spoke against hate speech. That is setting the pace for Parliament to act. And parliamentarians individually are doing enormously well in the fight against hate speech.
We expect that to go faster, to go further than just declarations, because we may have the same declaration in the opening of the next session and in the opening of another session. It is already good to talk, but we want more action. Yes, now we don't have much time left, about 12 minutes to go. How do we stop hate speech using the law? Because I insist, I want that we should use the law, even if we have to put it side by side, sensitization and capacity building. Beginning with your law.
I believe the first thing is, first of all, to educate the population on the existing laws. Because some people, it's true, ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but there is need for people to get awareness.
Someone said the best way of educating someone is to make the person actually take part in the education, not just sound some syllables and some stuff into their ears. So don't you also think that the best way of making people follow the education is to get some examples of those who have done that? They are punished, they are given deterring punishment, that education goes better than going around sensitizing, singing to people.
Exactly. We need to get people, these repressive measures are meant to dissuade actions, but let's also not find ourselves tomorrow and over 25 million Cameroonians, we may find ourselves having to lock everyone down. Hate speech begins
That's just
from
saying
me
that
and
is
you.
too serious.
It's super serious. It begins from you and me, and the moment I take a personal commitment to say no to hate speech, to act for peace, and to stop hate speech even when I see it coming, then we can start thinking of reducing it. The moment bystanders move into action by saying no, don't cross this border. You don't need to be in a WhatsApp group and people start a professional argument, then the next thing you hear, they start bringing in different things that have absolutely nothing to do.
How will you stop these people in the social media, for example?
Exactly.
How can you stop them?
As a WhatsApp group administrator or members, you should not allow such discussions. Instead, the discussion should be on addressing it there and then. The different social media platforms have different algorithms by which they identify this. But as the algorithms are working, new terms are coming in. That's why we need human monitors, what we call people who are able not only to see it, but to flag it. I can see a hate speech against your community and I leave it, but I should be able to report it to the platform so that it can be taken down.
I agree with you. Let me be very honest. I also coordinate a WhatsApp group, the one for Press R, and I have had to delete images of some people who were promoting messages of hate speech, and I did that once, twice. The people never brought up those things, and some of the elder members of the group, like Professor Zengwa, called my attention to it, and I went into action. It happened. So I agree with you on that point. But I am still insisting on the law, Professor Zengwa. Don't we need deterring examples to stop this hate speech that is likely to disintegrate our unity more than anything else?
I think we need it now more than ever before. I join her to say it now. I'm glad to say the Ministry of Youth
Affairs and Civic Education,
and they are working together with Antique. I still go to hold tight to my opinion that public authorities, those who have public power, are those who are propagating hate speech. The more. And,
as individuals.
As individuals.
Yeah, we should underline that.
As individuals.
Yes.
Yes, we have senators, we have parliamentarians, we have ministers who've been able, we have directors who've been able to propagate hate speech.
But you should report them. When you see a case, you denounce, you report.
It shouldn't be me to report.
You are like me. Like
yes.
I think I do that. I think I do that more than you just talked about me reporting to you, and you took action. I think I'm in the field. I'm a field soldier for that. So what I'm trying to say is that what laws he's talking about Antique, that's very fine. If there was a practical action that all politicians who are overtly promoting hate speech should not contest in next elections, and it is adopted by your assembly, and the Antique comes out with messages of the current sitting politicians who have been engaged in hate speech, in the next elections they should not come out. Ministers who have been able to, I think if we come out with clear measures to fight against this hate speech with practical punitive measures, I think we are going to roll them back. Let me give a small example. I was sitting in a panel discussion, a recruitment panel to recruit lecturers, and someone in the panel said, well, you know, this university is meant for people from this region. It means that this name is not supposed to contest or compete for
a position.
I mean, for the position to be recruited. I think it was an immediate reaction from myself. Let me say this. Permit me give a small practical example in Zamai, where there was a lot of hate speech in that community between ex-combatants of Boko Haram, ex-associates, ex-hostages, the local population, the refugees. They were at daggers drawn because of the cheap resources.
I am aware of that. I have been to Zamai and I know exactly what you're talking about.
And what we decided to do as a group, as a person and as an organization is to carry out field research to know exactly what the problem is, and then to carry on activities in that area to make sure that we minimize hate speech within that community. I bet you, get to that community now, we have been able to plant some communication, some collaboration, and encourage even intermarriage between the different communities, which was formerly unheard of. I think these are practical things. That is why I want to say the most important institution should be the family. All of the institutions we've listed are just administrative institutions, but the most important institution should be the family. We should be able, within the family, to dissuade our children from considering others as maybe les envahisseurs, maybe the kiddies,
invaders,
maybe all of these, so that within that familyhood we can climb up to any other level.
Yes, just to add to what you're saying about Antique, that controls telecommunications, there is no pseudonym with Antique. Whoever you are, if you don't use your name, it is very easy for them to trace you and pick you up like a chick. That one is a case, so nobody should think that they're hiding to do that. Exactly. Now, to you, Prof. Pascal Kumawa, we have to stop this if you were the one to stop. You are leading a whole commission in your ministry to fight this, going around the country. What will you do to liaise with the law, with other organizations, we are talking about Antique and others, to stop, to bring perpetrators to book, to order?
For me, whosoever is a victim, is a propagator of hate speech, the law should not smile at that person. But before we get there, there's what they call household production of hate speech. A lot of the hate speech that we have comes from home. How do I know that? How does a child know that that particular ethnic group is bad, or that particular family is bad? Is when the parents discuss about them.
That is correct.
Yes. So we need, what my ministry has been doing is that we have trained what they call senior trainers to moralize in schools, that is basic education, secondary education, universities, and we are introducing curriculum so that civic and moral education can be taught in schools. So that if the family fails,
we go back to that, because
yes,
I was taught civic education when I was in primary.
Exactly. So when the family fails, the child spends a maximum of his time during the year in school. The school can pick up and correct the error of the family.
But today, what are you saying? They have citizenship education. Is it not civic education?
Citizenship, it is, but it is not up to date. Okay. It has to be upgraded.
Okay.
As a matter of fact,
yes, contextualize.
As a matter of fact, if I have to add something to that, we proposed that since 2008 and did a study within the country and talked about introducing effective peace and citizenship education in Cameroon schools and colleges. It was not done. I am glad that the ministry is doing that, but I think it is found online, and many of the things we did say was that what we are putting in the curriculum is far below what we should do. I think we need a group of a team of experts to actually come out with what effective citizenship or civil education should be, and what effective peace education should be. I think the ministry is doing much. What the ministry is doing is not found in the curriculum. I think that there should be a marriage within the two ministries, so that those curriculum, what they are propagating, should be put actually in the school programs.
Thank you. That would be our last word, Prof. Zengwa.
Yes.
Your own last word.
All
please,
the ministries that are involved with education, including transport, where we train drivers to go to the road and drive, we have made them to involve, so that we can have people who can behave civilly. That is, behave in a way that they will not harm.
Someone will ask you, well, what we see in our streets, don't you need an injection, a vaccination?
Soft power will do the job.
Mr. Ndah, the first thing I would say is that we need to look at our homes and our parenting styles to begin with.
Okay, it's important.
Yes, because the children we bring today will reflect the homes from which they come from. The second thing I would say, laws are not meant to stifle growth, stifle development, or stifle people's rights. Laws are meant to regulate the conduct of affairs of people living in a city. Just like politics is discussing the affairs of the city. You and I were discussing about hate speech today. It's the current affairs. And the last thing I would say is that hate speech is a manifestation of a lot of things, whether political frustrations or ambitions, whether economic frustrations or ambitions, whether emotional challenges, and so on. So
thank
let
you.
us not look
yes,
at
thank you. Thank you.
Silent,
Yes,
silent transcripts brought
your
to
last
surface.
word,
Yes.
Nadesh Law.
My last word is that hate speech begins from you and me. And the moment we say no to hate at our individual levels, these little actions later grow to a collective effort.
Thank you very
Unless
much.
we are ready to do so, and do so now, not tomorrow.
Now, not tomorrow. And where you and I don't understand, I am calling on the law to come in. And that is exactly what we are saying. We should not cajole generators and and promoters of hate speech. We have to regulate the society, keep them, weed them out, and let us have a very united country full of loving citizens. We love ourselves, we live together. And it's with that, ladies and gentlemen, that we put a cap on today's edition of Press Hour, in which you heard Nadesh Law Nganle, of Defy Hate Speech Now, Honorable Nestus Fru Manju, a Member of Parliament, Professor Willibrod Zengwa, who is a political scientist, historian, expert in peace and conflict resolution. He is also the president of Heritage Higher Institute of Peace and Development. And then our own Professor Pascal Kum-Awa, who is an anthropologist and technical advisor to the Minister of Youth Affairs and Civic Education. You have a rebroadcast of this program on Monday at 2:30.
We will not go without me saying this, please.
Thank you.
Each politician functions within a political party, and the actions of the politicians are regulated by the political party.
Thank you very much. The program is ended. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.